So I think one thing that I want to ask you and for our audience is you're perfectionist, you like the perfectionism, right? And I think this is where we'll talk about perfectionism and excellence. Perfectionism is fear of failure. Excellence is embracing failure and learning it. What does that mean to you?
Say the quote again.
So perfection. What's perfectionist to you? What does perfectionism mean?
It's just making things right, making things work the way that they're supposed to work.
Yep.
And just having something to the most optimal level. Like there is nothing higher than this.
Okay.
Has to hit that, and like there's nothing that can top that.
Okay. And what's excellence to you then? If you have to
That's
define excellence. Shifted my chair a few times. Excellence. Come on, buddy. No, I'm joking. I think the best way, me and him have discussed it, so we probably know it really well. But it's like, for me, perfection, yes. It's not embracing the fact that something can be improved. It's actually you fear failure. And what I mean by that is you don't ever put yourself, you're limited in your belief, in the sense that you want the perfect outcome without actually understanding why you want the perfect outcome and what steps you're taking to get to the perfect outcome. Excellence are the steps along the way. Is those little things, and it's embracing the fact that if I fail, I'm going to learn, going to become better. Fail, I'm going to learn, become better. As you become better, you start reaching towards perfectionism. So it's sort of the pathway
that kind of merges towards the end if you do it right.
Exactly.
And it's like, well, I would say excellence is just like going through courage through failure. It's just coming from like more of a positive type of mentality and mindset. Whereas perfectionism is like more of fearing. So because you're fearing, it's more of like I feel like it's more negatively driven.
Yeah.
In a way, because you fear it going wrong and you think about all those case scenarios you can.
Yeah.
You're trying to avoid all that. Basically.
I mean, it's like, look, if I was to apply in my own business, then for sure with car detailing, it's all about like this can go wrong or that can go wrong or that exact spec isn't going to come out perfect. So that huge part of the job is finding any, like out of hundreds of combinations, and this is something that I had to learn, right? Is that there can be combinations that can work better than the other, but I can't focus on just that, because if I do, then the work's never going to get done, right? It's just finding whatever works best at that point in time and applying it to the car. But what I struggled with when I first started was, like the job has to be done within the day. And 3 hours go past and my partner's going, dude, we haven't even started on the car. And I'm like, no, give me a few more minutes. Like, I'll keep working on a few more combinations. But if you think about it mathematically, the amount of pads and compounds I have, I'm not going to be able to find the exact combination in the next 3 hours even. So I guess that's like a huge part of it. Like you're completely right about what perfectionism is. I think it is negatively drawn, and a big part of it would most likely come from, I guess, even childhood, things that maybe went wrong in childhood, and then just wanting to make sure that it works out perfect. But really, that's not the right word to use. It should be excellence. Like you should be teaching kids as they're growing up to achieve excellence, not perfection.
I think it's common in ethnic households to prioritize perfection over excellence.
Because of like the comparison belief, right?
Exactly.
I think it's just very common.
And here's the thing. We tend to compare the end product, the destination.
Yeah.
We never, example, right? Someone goes on to do well really well in the HSC. They get a really good mark at the end. Good, you've succeeded. Then what's next?
Yeah.
So a lot of people fall off.
Yeah.
And then there's people that didn't do as well tend to do well. So it's
so many different.
There's no perfectionism.
Yeah, there's
there,
no
right?
thing. You know what I mean? Like so many people we know from high school, so good at studies, ended up falling off after high school. Didn't know what to do. Didn't know how to achieve anything after that. Then there's people that were book smart and they still did achieve well. There's so many different versions of it, and I think in a brown household, it's so common. Like, so much of my childhood, like, I know it affected me because I bring it up still to my parents. Because I'll sometimes look to go to my parents, I'm like, yeah, now what? That person that you compared me throughout my entire childhood, where are they now? And where am I? Even though I made all those mistakes, was there any point in you making me feel so bad during that point in time just because I didn't get XYZ over this person? It doesn't, exactly. And it's a huge part. Like, I see myself teaching my parents that, and I know they're learning because, but there is a still part of them that still remains there because they're like, their belief is that, well, if we didn't do that, you wouldn't be as good as you are now. But I'm like, that's not the right way, because if it was, then I wouldn't be feeling the negative things that I'm still feeling, right? And I realized not only that, it's affected me in the way that I raise people. So my little brother, I realize there's parts of that in me now. But the only difference I would say is that there is moments of realization. There are moments where I'm just like, no, that's not the way to teach him. That's not the way. And changing the conversation from look what that person did and more focusing on him as an individual and his journey. Okay, why did you get that wrong? Why aren't you focusing? What are you struggling with? I would have loved if my parents asked me questions like that.
You need to be like that. I mean, people are like, oh no, you've got to be harsh and stuff, but you actually get a lot more out of someone if you actually show care and you actually ask the right questions. Like you with your brother, right? It's like, okay, well, you got this wrong. That's fine. Like, let's look at what you could have done. Like, what could you do better? Learn from that, go through it together. And you've created someone that's prioritized the excellence. Like a kid showing you a 75 and his mate getting 100, like, oh, he got 100 and you got 75. That's perfection. But excellence would be, oh, look, he got 100, you got 75. That's okay. Let's look at why you got 75 and work on it so you can get that 100.
Exactly. And
so, like, would you say then, like, with perfectionism, the best way to balance it is like feedback in that sense, because you're like getting feedback and it's just like.
Well, I think it's also not understanding why you haven't
thinking.
Yeah, like it's not understanding why you haven't achieved what you wanted to achieve. Like perfectionism is in a way like.
You look, as you said, the end product. But exactly. If you just look a bit more deeper into the journey and break down the journey,
that's excellence.
That's excellence.
And that's what it is. That's the journey. And I think if we were to draw another comparison, perfectionism is the end product. Excellence is the journey.
Yeah.
You have to prioritize the journey over. You have to prioritize the journey over the destination. At the end of the day, you can't be someone that prioritizes. Like you got to take little steps along the way to get to your journey, to the destination. And you know what? I think striving for perfectionism is good in certain parts. Like wanting to be perfect isn't bad, right? Expecting high of yourself, higher standards,
100%,
living by strong values, having a strong mindset, being true to yourself. That's all very important. That is a level of perfection. But it's also understanding that there's a level of you are going to screw up, and that is okay. Yeah. But just learn from it.
It's just growing from those specific instances where it's gone wrong and making it better. But exactly, like with perfection, we wouldn't look at that. It's like as soon as you stuffed up, you're going to focus so much on that one thing that you did wrong. But if you actually use that as a catalyst to be like, okay, cool, this is the issue that I've made. If I do this and this and this instead of what I've just done, then you can jump up like 10 more steps higher. And then another 10 steps from the next mistake. And finally, you'll get to a point in time where you're like, okay, this is perfection. And then finalizing and molding that final craft. And the only way you're good at doing that, I'm trying to imagine, I don't know if you guys know this, but like chiseling marble. When you first start, like none of us have chiseled marble, but when you chisel marble and getting that smooth final finish, the only way you know how to do that and hit the right spot is once again because of that journey. So if you just get that like perfectionist stage, you're not going to even know how to finalize the product because you've never learnt from those so forth steps.
Damn, that's a good way to look at it, eh?
Yeah, it's a pretty good analogy, yeah.
It's like the Michelangelo statue. That's I thought of that. Yeah, like if you just people see that end product, that Michelangelo statue, the great statue, but you don't actually understand what went into chiseling that. And it's like, oh, it's so perfect, but no, it was actually excellence that led to that perfection. They go both in hand in a way, I would say.
I think they're both like essential in some sense because, like, for example, some industries where there's like a low failure rate that's allowed, like surgeons, for example. You wouldn't want someone who has like 10% success, or like even 60%. You would want someone who has like 90 plus.
99.
That's why like education and stuff in doctor and like those types of industries are very, very like
Tell
high
me this though,
in
with the
success rate.
with the doctor, would you want someone that failed 5 times during the UMAT, GAMSAT, and worked through everything to then become a great doctor, or someone that got it first chance?
I think that's not a fair comparison.
What makes you say that?
Because to graduate medicine is a different ballgame.
No, I
So
agree.
everyone graduates medicine at the end.
Yeah.
So I think, okay, look, are you trying to draw the analogy that would you rather look at someone that struggled and succeeded or succeeded the first time?
Yeah, struggled and succeeded.
I think,
And what I mean by that is completely in like, don't worry about all the other things around it. Just look at it as one individual who has failed a specific test 5, 10 times, and then this is just an analogy, and then they've become a doctor, versus someone that's gone ahead, taken the test, and has become a doctor.
I think they're both equal.
Yeah, I mean, the only way you can distinguish them is just through experience.
Exactly.
Because like even in tech industry, like when you apply for jobs, doesn't even matter if the guy's like done 50 years of experience versus a guy who's just come out of fresh graduate. They'll still have to go through the test, and they don't care about how much qualifications you have. You can have 10 credentials, you can be like a PhD, but the test you do, where it's like a coding test, is the exact same for everyone. Obviously, if you have more experience, that's going to be something they're going to look out for more and prioritize over. But you still sit the same test. And if the guy who's got more experience does worse than the other person, he's just not going to succeed.
So I think with that, like in this case, both individuals will sit the medicine exams. Both individuals will do the exams. Both individuals will pass.
Yeah.
So I think at that point it's a standardized test, right? If then the doctor that succeeded the first time fails, maybe I think the analogy you're trying to look for is someone that has the resilience.
The resilience to keep going.
I think that analogy, like, it's a hard thing to say because medicine in itself is tough. The barrier to entry to medicine is significantly high. Like, you want the best of the best.
Yeah.
So I think someone getting in first go is just as great as someone that's failed a few times and then got in, because they're both highly successful. They're very highly they're smart individuals. To get into medicine first time, say something about you, right? Like, you must be a very bright kid.
Yeah.
But then someone that's maybe struggled but then got it, you're also a bright kid, but you had to go through some struggles to get there. So I think we want to look at it. From my perspective on this is that we should look at it of, regardless, they're both going to take the same journey in completing medicine and becoming doctors. So the journey will be the same for both of them. Maybe one will have better resilience, but...
And that's what you want though, don't you?
You do, but then like, if they're both doctors and they're both doing a good job... But then here's the thing. If your life is at hand, would you want someone that succeeded the first time or failed 5 times and succeeded?
Probably the one that 5 times, because it comes down, in my opinion,
I disagree.
They've made enough mistakes to learn from those mistakes.
I would want someone first time succeeded because it shows that they've sort of not mastered, but they're
like a prodigy.
The prodigy. They know what they're doing in that.
Prodigy doesn't mean that they won't make a mistake though.
But
then
what's to
mean
say the
to.
person that's made the 5 times makes the same, like that person 5 times?
Well, it's harder for them to make that.
So here's the thing. Whether you make a mistake 5 times or 1 time, there's still risk for making a mistake again.
Of course.
Right?
Guaranteed.
Now, I think what you're talking about is that person resilient enough that if they make a mistake, they're able to pick themselves back up. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Again, if they're both doctors in medicine, I would say and they've gone through the journey of medicine, they're both equally as good.
Fair point.
Yeah, I think it's just
that's my perspective, by the way.
I would go with like lower probability. So the one that's failed less would...
If my life is on the line, yes.
Yeah, because like in some cases, I feel like resilience is good.
Yeah.
But I think like in the case of like your life at hands and like something very like something
Exactly, anything
something like
can
that.
go wrong. So I think
I think
the way
you'd play with probabilities, so like less failure, the better. But
Yeah.
obviously, I think like resilience is like important in other aspects. I think like especially when it comes to like physical, physical type of labor or like even like fitness. Like when you're going in those types of things, you want someone who's like very strong minded.
Yeah.
In that sense, you would prioritize over that. In a
Look,
sense.
Yeah.
I do think
Yeah.
though what you're trying to say about resilience being important to pick yourself back up
Yeah.
is very important, because the person that's always won and succeeded, maybe if they hit adversity, they might.
exactly.
At the same time though, I think the journey, like I think every successful person will have a level of resiliency.
Yeah.
I think that's
No, for sure. Especially when you're a doctor. I think what my point was that, say that like this is now that it goes into the nitty gritty. Like if they're having surgery and something goes wrong, I expect the guy that's made the multiple mistakes to be like, I've seen this mistake before. I know how to work. My brain's going to be able to make the correct decisions to navigate this situation with someone, as you said, in a situation I've never ever failed or had something go wrong.
correct. But to study medicine,
Yeah,
they've
and
both
then
gone through it and passed.
yeah.
So they both have come across that situation together. I think that's, I mean, I've never done the GAMSAT or any of those exams, but I know people that have, and you know, they're really successful now, they're doing well.
Yeah.
But like, is a GAMSAT, those exams, even a fair comparison of building resiliency, or is it studying medicine itself?
Yeah, it would be studying
Medicine
itself for sure.
because you've gotten into medicine
Yeah,
through hard work, right? But then are you able to actually do medicine? Like I know people that have, you know, left medicine for other career prospects because it's just not for them, which is fine. So it's quite draining. Medicine is quite draining itself.
Yeah, hugely. Especially in Australia, I think there was a whole stat on how we don't have enough doctors at all in Australia. Because the entry, but then again, this brings up that point, like, would you want the entry to med to be easier? I don't, like, you know, it brings up that question because they're saying the entry point is just that hard, even for doctors from other countries that have like amazing doctors. Like I had an auntie who was a doctor, straight surgeon for like, I won't be able to put a number on it, but a good amount of years. And then once she came here, for her to get to that level again, it was mental. It was at points where she was like, I don't want to continue.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that brings up the question, don't you want your doctors to like have that barrier to be that high of a level so that you know that you're only vetoing the wrong people and you're getting the right people?
100%. You'd want the best
definitely.
of the best. Even like astronauts, military.
Well, failure rate is just low.
Lawyer.
You'd want the best of the best,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Even
But it
law,
can't
like
be
law, you'd want the best.
horrible.
In roles where there's responsibilities high, yeah, I agree. Pilots as well, like you'd want the best of the best. I also think I had a train of thought, I completely forgot it.
We'll come back to it.
No, government regulations. So we spoke about, you know, I think the Australian government, in a way, on cars, and this is a car, like this is from a car perspective, ridiculous, right?
It's more than ridiculous. You can't. I think there was this story, right? This one is what broke my heart. There was a lot of people get into the car industry or get into a car because sometimes the things aren't going right in their life, and somehow their car has been their anchor. The car has been a place where they've been able to put their own personal time and effort into something and just build something beautiful and go take that car for a drive, and all that stress goes out the window, right? And there's a guy who was in Melbourne, and it was an RX-7, Mazda RX-7, beautiful car. Worked on it, made it look perfect.
Those are the rotary engines, right?
Yeah, the rotary engines burn a lot of oil. And he ended up getting pulled over and he got red stickered or red labeled. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but once a cop red labels your car, unfortunately, like say that you've done $100,000 worth of modifications, they all need to be removed and brought back to stock on how the car was originally bought, taken to a government or like a Service New South Wales station where they'll double check it, confirm it's back to, you know, whatever standards, and then getting it back on the road. And this kid, he was, you know, there was a point in his life where he tried taking his life before that situation. And I don't know what the end story was, but look, I know that he's still alive, but he was really pushed to like another depth when that happened, because it's not that he put hundreds of thousands of dollars, but however much he put in, it was very, very hard earned money. And for the government to do something, and you know what, this is what really makes me angry. Their whole point on government regulation, right, is that the reasons we're doing this is because we want the road safe. We want safe cars on the road. They're not realizing that most of us, when we're modifying our cars, we're making it way better, right? We're getting better suspension. We're making sure that this car drives better on the road. Yes, it may have more power, but you can't just increase power. You need to increase the braking system so it stops a lot quicker as well. So everything that we have is a lot higher. Like you guys, they're not even thinking about these multi-corporations like Volkswagen and so forth. What they're doing behind closed doors. They might not be putting cars to spec, but just because they've had cars on the road for so long, we're bringing them in. So when the government says stuff like this, really annoys me, because at the end of the day, we are just bringing safer cars onto the road. I've seen some cars, not modified, not whatever, rust buckets. Like you could probably put your foot through the bottom and like you'd be on the road. And these cars are allowed on the roads, but you're not going to be but you're going to be focusing on that kid that just went and put time and effort into building something beautiful. It makes people really happy when you see videos of like cops, like, wow, dude, like nice car, like you worked so hard on it. And it makes people happy, but you hardly see that. That's why there's this whole negative stigma against like cops or anything. Even I've had it. Like I'm like, oh, I don't even want to talk to you. Like pulls me over, starts talking to me. I don't want to talk to you.